What if I told you that the biggest obstacle to your company's growth isn't strategy, technology, or even sales? It's your managers. And what if fixing it only required 9 minutes a week? Hey, I'm James Robbins, and I want to introduce you to the 9 Minutes on Monday leadership workshop that maximizes employee engagement in your organization. But it's not just a workshop. It's a leadership framework. And it's the same framework that took this manufacturing company that was hitting 68% of its sales goals and 3 months later was hitting 98%. It's the same framework that John Maxwell and his team invited me down with him to South America to teach to over 1,000 business owners. And it's the same framework that took a hospital that was struggling with employee engagement and doubled its engagement scores. And in fact, it's the same framework that's being used by leaders in all of these different organizations. And the reason it's so powerful is because this framework increases morale and lowers turnover in your organization. It boosts productivity and it creates a high performance work culture. Now, the question is, why a framework? Well, the reason is because your people get stuck in the weeds, especially your managers, with all the things they have to do. And what happens is managers tend to gravitate towards task work. And when they do that, they neglect people work, which is the very thing they need to be focused on. And so what we're going to do is we're going to help your leaders get more intentional about how they lead their staff. Because when they're intentional about their leadership, that's when things really begin to change. And so we're going to get them away from task work and get them focused back on people work. Now, this framework, what's it based on? The foundation of the framework is this. It's the engagement drivers. The engagement drivers are 9 emotional and psychological needs that, when these are met in a person, creates motivation. In fact, the 9 engagement drivers are what I first detailed in my book that came out over a decade ago that's now been read by thousands and thousands of people. Well, the 9 engagement drivers are things like the need to be more than a number, the need to grow and develop, the need to be recognized and appreciated, the need for mastery and achievement, for purpose, the need for autonomy, the need for connection, for fun, and for a model to follow. And we teach your managers all of these drivers, and not just teach them, then we show them how to implement them. And I want you to imagine for a moment that every single employee in your company comes to work, and each week they feel like their boss cares about them, is helping them grow, recognizes great work, holds them accountable, helps them feel purposeful in their job, doesn't micromanage them, and make sure the work environment, the team that they're in, is healthy and their boss sets a great example. What would that do to your productivity and your engagement? As Melody Moore said, that this framework was the first program they found that provided a simple to use formula for increasing employee engagement and productivity. Now, the thing is, it's one thing to teach people some skills and some truths, but how do we make this stick? Because what a lot of managers tell us is they feel like this. There's just so many things to do, which is why they gravitate towards task work. And so how do we get it to stick? With ritual. A ritual that is simple and easy and effective. And to do that, we borrow some principles from the mountains. Because what we are going to do for your managers is we're going to give them a simple system. And then we're going to combine it with tiny steps over time, and that's where we're going to see amazing things happen. And that simple ritual is known as the Monday morning ritual. And what it entails is simply that when your managers come into the office, before they get into their to-do list, before they open their email, they're going to sit down and they're going to ask themselves 9 questions. Each question relates to one of the engagement drivers, and they're going to make one small micro commitment in their leadership to make sure they're going to stay intentional. And so you can even see here, there's some managers actually filling this out. And what we like to say about this ritual is that it is embarrassingly simple, yet it is profoundly effective. And the reason it's so effective is because great leadership is found in the little things done consistently. And that's why people like Robin says 2 years later, and this is still one of the most powerful tools that I use, or Mary, who said, my relationship with my employees flourished, productivity increased more than I would have ever expected, it's user-friendly, takes less than 10 minutes, and produces result. What kind of results? Well, here's a national charity that got all of their managers using the framework, and their fundraising increased by 400%. Remember that manufacturing company I told you about? Well, they were on their way for a $3 million loss. They got all their managers using this framework, being intentional about how they lead, and then they ended up with a $1.2 million profit only 6 months later. That's a $4.2 million turnaround. And then there's Abiomed, the maker of the world's smallest heart pump. Abiomed got all of their leaders, all 200 of their leaders, using this leadership framework, and a year later, they were bought out by Johnson & Johnson for $17 billion. Their CEO, Mike Minogue, said, without a doubt, you made Abiomed a better company. But here's the thing. I didn't make Abiomed a better company. Their leaders using this framework, that's what did. And because it's simple to do, people love it, and they have raved about the framework and as they use it. So how do we actually deliver this in your company? It's really quite simple. It starts with a virtual workshop where we are going to get your managers to take ownership of their teams that they lead. We're going to teach them the engagement drivers, and then we're going to equip them with the ritual and the tools needed. Then we're going to leave them with a bunch of tools that they can use. We're going to send them a bunch of reminders over the coming weeks. And 90 days later, we're going to have a quick follow-up call where people can share their wins, ask their questions, and continue the journey. And the big promise is this, that after the workshop, your managers will have a simple framework that's guaranteed to increase engagement and lower turnover without adding extra hours to their already busy week. Now, some people will ask us, well, is this for young managers or is this for people who are more experienced? Well, the answer is actually both. We've had young managers say things like this: 9 minutes on Monday changed me as a leader. And we've heard seasoned veterans say some of the best leadership development I have received in 20 years. And so it really does work for everyone. But at the end of the day, you are looking for results. And results are what we guarantee as your leaders use this framework. So if this sounds like something that might be a great fit for your organization, then I'd like you to find the button that looks like this on the screen here and book a call with us, and we can answer your questions. And if this looks like it might be a great fit for you, then we can set up a time, because times are limited and we would love to work with you if it's a great fit. So thanks for watching, and we'd love to talk to you soon.